I'm going to give you guys a bunch of directions and then we'll go ahead and get started. So on your Chromebooks right now, hopefully you guys are looking at the blog with me. So you kind of are looking right where I'm looking.
Yeah.
Okay. Ruth, will you get yourself right here so you can see where we're at? So last week, and the week before, I had a goal that we were going to be able to get our literary elements and our book reading all woven together, Justina. That I was going to be able to do both. All right? Last week, in the classes being 42 minutes, I realized it's not enough time to get you guys good quality notes and spend time reading. Okay? It wasn't working out. So what I've decided over the weekend is what we're going to first do, James, we're going to focus on reading the book. All right? The book is a fabulous book, and so we're going to focus on reading this book and modeling the way that we think and the way that we analyze a book. So we're going to be reading out loud. When we're done reading the book, that's when we're going to turn our attention, Jane, to diving deep into the literary elements. So while I'm reading the book, we're going to introduce them to you, Justina. You've already been introduced to things like character and setting, and today I'll just introduce you to plot. Okay? But then when we're finally done reading the entire book, Ruth, we'll dive deep into those literary elements then. Okay? So for people at home virtually as well, we're going to work on the book first, and then we're going to turn our attention to the literary elements, Justina. Okay? And additionally, a lot more of the work, guys, I'm making it so that the work is online, and that's going to be a big difference today. All right? But before we get to that, and before Ruth, Jane, Justina, and John, I show you how we're going to be tackling the readings from here. This is Star Week. Okay, so every single person, yes?
Do you have paper copies of the assignments? Maybe the kids asked if they could have a paper copy instead of going into Google Classroom.
I do. Right down
Oh,
here.
you just have 4 today?
Yeah, we're missing Piper. Oh. They have to do the quiz though on Google Classroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to read that.
I wonder if is that enough?
No.
You have a big class.
Okay. Thank you.
And as you guys just maybe saw, depending on what your camera can see, we do have paper versions of the coursework that you guys are going to be able to see and do digitally, but you can also do them right on paper. Okay. All right. So let's turn our attention to STAR. So this week is STAR week. Jane, today you are going to do the STAR ELA, and tomorrow you guys are going to do your STAR math. Raise your hand, even people at home virtually. Raise your hand. How many people are familiar with what STAR is? Okay, so everybody in here, so we don't have to explain what it is. This year, when you take your STAR, at least when you take your STAR ELA, I will be making sure that I'm going to be giving you your scores. All right, we're going to talk about what your score means. What does it mean as far as your percentile rank, about your reading ability? Because that data is good for me, but it's also really good for you. All right, you want to know where you're at with your reading. Okay, so today we're going to do STAR. And you can see the only homework assignment that we have tonight is doing what, John?
Reading chapter 3 and completing the reading guide. And complete chapter 3 quiz on Google Classroom.
Good. Make sure that when you're reading with your best loud voice, because now you're reading for the people in the room, you're reading for me, you're reading for the people at virtual, and now you're reading for people on YouTube too. How about that? Okay, so guys, STAR. I actually have to skip down a little bit because we have to first get to STAR. So I'll come back to these. So to get to STAR, guys, every single one of you here in the room, I want you guys to start by going to apwschools.org. Okay, go to the school website. And again, you folks at home, don't worry about this right now. I can do this from back here. All right. I can see that John is there. When that little pop-up comes on, you have to say, got it. And then don't click on anything yet, John. All right, Jake, go ahead. Click on got it so that the alert tab goes away. Okay. It looks all right. You guys have got it. All right. Now that you're all there, find the staff tab on the top and click on the staff tab. All right, now scroll all the way down, and in the middle there's a bunch of blue links. You see all those blue links right there? Keep scrolling down, scroll down, scroll on, keep scroll up. Okay, scroll. All right, sorry, they're not in the middle on yours, they're on the right. Okay, and on the right you are looking for it where it says STAR assessments. It's alphabetical. Okay, so it is alphabetical. Find the STAR assessments and click on STAR assessments. Excellent. Okay, you guys are a student, so click on I'm a student. You guys, in your notebooks, you all glued in this page.
Yes.
Okay? Where you had your computer login, your blog login, and now your STAR login. We're going to go to this page right now. All right? Because every year kids forget their passwords because they don't write them down. This is why I gave you this sheet so you can write your password down. So now your password. Everybody for their username. Just like mine, I'm using a model. Your username is your first initial followed by your last name. So everybody right now, write down your username. My username is R. Trumbull. That's what it would be. Ruth, you're on this page and you're writing down your username. Okay, your username is your first initial and your last name.
Yep.
All right. I'm waiting to see it. Everybody has that written down. Now, for your password. This is how we get your password. Your password is this. Okay? It is basically the month, the day, and your birth year. Okay? So it's the month you were born, the day you were born, the birth year, and then your initials. So, for me, I was born in June. Now, everyone for your birthday, it has to have 2 digits. Yeah. Your birth month has to have 2 digits. So my birth month was June, which is month 6. I can't just put down the 6 though, so what do I have to do?
You have to put a 0.
06. So you guys write down whatever month you were born. If you don't know what number month it is, raise your hand.
Mine's 0, 0, 0, 1, 1.
Don't shout it out. Alright, then for my next is the day of my birth. And again, if you were born between like the 1st through the 9th of the month, let's say I was born on the 9th. Again, my day, I have to have 2 digits. So what would I need to put in there? Jane?
0.
A 0. Now I was born on the 10th, so I would just put in 1 0. You guys write down the day of your birth. So at this point you should have 4 digits. Okay, you can see mine, 0610. The last, or the next 4, should be the year of your birth. Most of you guys were probably born in 2010?
9.
2009. So you would write down 2009. I was born in the great year of 74, so I'd write down 1974. And then the last thing is your initials. So mine are here. So everybody's password should be 10 digits long. Count the digits in your password. Make sure you have 10. If you do, try to log in. Use your username and password to log in. Alright, are you there? Okay, does anybody's password not work? Everyone's password did work. Excellent. Can I have your attention back up here? Alright. So, tips to do your best. As I started off, last year we did this every month, so we did this 10 times a year. We're not going to have that time, so we're going to do it 4 times this year, once every quarter. So, I want you to do your best. So, Justina, here are some tips to do your best. Read the first one, Justina. Read carefully. That's the first tip. Alright? These aren't paper copies, so this is screen. You're reading on a screen. Some people really like to read on a screen. Some people don't like to read on a screen. Take the time to make sure that you guys are reading carefully. A lot of mistakes that happen sometimes are because of careless reading. Janie, the second thing that you should do is
Reread when needed.
reread. If you're unsure about something, go back, reread. The only time that you have to be worried about time is when you get that little clock on your screen. All right? If you ever get that little clock on your screen in the top right in the middle, that's telling you that you're almost out of time. That's the only time I want you to feel a little pressure. Okay? And at that point, once you start to see that clock, I try to make this the best choice, and that's where this last tip can come on in. All right, the third bullet down, Ruth says to make sure that you do what?
Take your time.
Take your time. And you heard me just refer, the only time you need to worry about time is if that little clock pops up. But other than that, take your time. Don't judge yourself based off of the person next to you and who gets done first. If one person gets done first, I don't want you to think that you need to rush, because you know what often happens on a test like this? The people that score the highest are often the people that take the longest, because they're working the most careful. And the way that this test works is this. The more questions you get right, the harder the test is going to get. The harder the test will get. So the passages might get a little bit longer. So if you start feeling, wow, this test is getting really hard, you've probably been on a roll, and you're probably getting a lot of answers right. So the test is like, okay, well, you can handle this level question, let's go to the next level. So it will get more challenging. And likewise, if you think the test is really easy, maybe you're going really quick and maybe you're making some careless errors, because if you start to get too many questions wrong, the test says, oh, I'm too hard for this student. I need to soften the questions and make them a little easier because the student's not understanding. Okay? So take your time and work carefully. All right? Fourth bullet down, John says to do what?
Read all answers before choosing one.
Yeah. Just because the first answer sounds good, read them all. I like to go ahead and try to put in each answer. If it's like a fill in the blank question, try out each one, see how that answer works with the passage, and then pick the best one. This fifth one down, say use your context clues. This test loves to ask lots of vocabulary questions. All right? And so context clues is going back into the passage using the sentence, using the sentences and the words around those words to try to figure out what that word might mean that you're struggling with. All right, last one. How many of you here have you heard of process of elimination?
Me.
Ruth, how would you describe process of elimination?
You look at all the answers and you see which one that sounds the most ridiculous and you remove them. And you keep on going until you get to one that makes sense.
Couldn't have said it any better. You look at all the answers and you start by removing the one that sounds the silliest, the one that doesn't make sense at all. And you take 4 answers and now you narrowed it down to 3. And then with that 3, again, you see which one doesn't make sense. You see if you can eliminate them. And that brings you into the correct answer. Okay, guys, so when we take the test, I'm turning all the technology off. So guys, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let the screen here run because you guys are all silent and muted. Stay muted. We're about to start the test, okay? If you wanna stay on just to watch for when the read aloud begins, that's awesome. Other than that, you guys make sure you stay nice and quiet because these guys are about to start the STAR test. When you guys are done, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do when you're done before we even begin. When you're done, okay, you can, first, your choice is to just sit quietly. You just took a test. Just sit quietly and let your brain take a break for a second. All right, just sit and breathe, relax. All right, you could grab an independent reading book from your own independent reading. If you're behind in Freak the Mighty, you can sit quietly with your Freak the Mighty the book. Freak the Mighty book. Or if you had another assignment and you're really motivated to look at some science and social studies, you can. Because what's going to happen today is we're not going to go to switch any other rooms. You guys are stuck with me today. Because today is all about STAR, and you can see with math, it's all about catch-up day. And here in ELA, it's all about kind of hitting that pause button and kind of starting over. All the teachers, we all kind of decided that this week, it's all about STAR and kind of making sure every single person has their feet underneath them. So moving forward, we can move forward together. Ruth, question?
It's about the changing questions, so there's no cheating or anything like that. Cheat because they change the questions, right?
Right, you can't. So the questions that you have are not, they're going to be the same as John's. Even the test now, it kind of knows where you left off last year, so even everybody's question number 1 is going to be different.
So I'm still
Okay, STAR, it keeps track of like you through the years. If you've done STAR before, it knows you, Ruth, so it starts you where it thinks you might be.
It knows me.
Well, it knows your results. Okay, John, question?
Does that mean that I'm gonna not have that much homework Thursday and Friday?
Well, if you look at our weekly agenda, you will still have to read chapter 5 and do the quiz, and then chapter 6 on Friday. So I think it's going to seem like a lot less homework.
Yeah.
We're just going to go, I mean, these chapters are short. Just one chapter, do the guide and the quiz. And I'll show you the quiz afterwards. The quizzes for each chapter are like, again, they're like 5 or 6 questions, multiple choice, and one short answer. Something real quick where you can go on, read the chapter, show me that you've understood what you've read, so we can move forward.
And tomorrow we stay in here also?
No,
Just doing
I don't think
it?
so. All right. So I'm gonna turn the camera off before I even have you guys get. Yeah. All right, guys. Nice job. What I noticed was people were just working very carefully, taking their time. It looked like you guys were reading things carefully. So what I'll do is after everyone is done in A group and B group, is next week I will give you guys your score. Okay, so you guys will have to wait. I mean, I might be able to give them to you tomorrow, but I usually wait till I get full report, everyone is done, and then I can print it all at once. So you will know exactly how you did. You will know what your grade equivalent is, you'll know what your score is, you'll know how you rank compared to other 6th graders, and that's good data, that's good information for you guys. Going forward, this is how we're gonna do it. It's very, very easy. All right, that way we can do the same thing in class as you guys are doing at home. Alright, so today we're going to be reading chapter 3. It's the only new thing I have for us today, is just chapter 3. And Justina, whether you're here in class or you're at home, you're going to do it exactly the same way. Okay? And so here are these directions that I have for you guys. And for people that are home virtually, you really want to pay attention because you guys are going to want to make sure you know exactly where to click. So we're going to be reading chapter 3 out loud. I will usually read this out loud to you. But I will also make the video so it's available to you. But if you miss either of those, or you don't want to watch the video, you'll have to read it just independently, which you can do. You'll just miss out on some of the conversation. Then, there is a reading guide that I want you guys to complete. Now, if you're here in school, or even if you're at home, I can give you guys paper copies. But here, we're going to be using these reading guides. And this, John, this is where I can just introduce you to the literary elements that we're going to be studying. Okay, and you'll see in this reading guide, we've already been talking about setting and character. And today, we're just going to introduce you to plot. Okay? Ruth, we won't dive deep into plot today. We won't learn all about the different parts of plot. We're just going to introduce you to this literary element. And then we're going to be reading. And you guys can fill in this graphic organizer. You guys, it's on digital, you could print it out if you wanted to and you're at home, okay? But this is, I have a paper version for you guys here in class. So we can do it here like that. The other way that we can do this, it's on Google Classroom. So every single person right now, all right, from our page, I want you guys to click on our Google Classroom. Click on Mr. T's Google Classroom. So now you're on the classroom. And you guys at home, if you can do 2 screens like we were doing the other day, go to the Google Classroom. You will see under Classwork tab, click on your Classwork tab. All right. Your screen will look very similar to mine. I have a bunch of grayed out assignments because I've already made the chapter 4 reading guide and quiz and the chapter 5, so I'm a couple days ahead of you guys. But you should see right here under Unit 1, we have Freak the Mighty Chapter 3 quiz and Freak the Mighty Chapter 3 reading guide. Okay, so while you're reading, everyone open up the reading guide. Open up the digital reading guide. Okay, you click it and then open it up. It says graphic organizer. Okay, and again, it looks like this. This reading guide, it's not graded, Jade. I don't grade the reading guide. The reading guide is for you to organize your thoughts. So for me, I would like to do it in paper and pencil. That's just the way I'm better, because I like to read my book and just have my pencil out. But for the people at home, you can do it this way. So here you have setting, just like we did last week, and characters. On Friday, we just focused on what's happening with our characters and what is the setting. Today, we're going to add in a third literary element, which is plot. When you look at this, Ruth, very simply, what is plot? The plot is, it's right there, it's on your paper, Ruth. Yeah, it's the sequence of events. And so while we're reading, you guys could write down any important events that happen in the chapter. Here we have characters. As we're reading, we can write down anything we know or learn about the characters. And notice we're focusing on our two main characters, Justina. What are their names? Max and Kevin. And then the last one we're focusing on is the setting, which is the where and the when do the events take place. Can you describe it? So if I wanted to do this digitally, okay, the way that I could do it is if I click right here, oops, I already added a text box. If I click in here, in any of these boxes, like this, you can see it just highlights it blue, okay? And I can just go right ahead and I can type right in that box. If I wanted to type up here, I don't know why I added a second text box. Let's get rid of that one. Okay? And again, I just click in here, and I can go ahead and I can type right in my graphic organizer. So people who are at home, you can type right into these graphic organizers. There we go. Now, I won't be grading the graphic organizers, like I said. The graphic organizer is there for you to record your thoughts, your thinking while you're reading. John.
I like these more than the other ones.
You know, I want to lie. I made this one. The other one I didn't make. I'm being honest. I didn't make the other one. I'm not saying I'm great. Like, oh yeah, you love it because I made it. But the other one, it was some other teacher made it. Right? Now, I made this one specifically for you because I know exactly what I want you guys to focus on. I want you to focus on the literary elements. What's the setting? What's going on with our characters? And then what's happening with the plot? What's going on with our sequence of events? And I do think that this one, John, it's going to meet our needs better. So I'm glad that you like it. And again, I have paper copies and I have digital copies. So right now here in class, I'm going to give each of you a paper copy of it. And then you can decide which way you like it better. For the people who are at home, if you're coming into school, I'll give you a paper copy when you come in, and then you can decide whether you like the paper copy or the digital copy. Again, I won't grade your reading guide. What will get graded, though, is your quiz. So let me show you the quiz before I pass this out. So once I've read the chapter, here we have right above it, right below it on this case, is the Chapter 3 quiz. All right, you guys can just look up here. So I click on my quiz, and I click to take my quiz.
Okay.
The quiz, it's usually, I've been making them, it's usually only 5 or 6 questions. So you can see this one. And this starts out, it's all multiple choice, Justina. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 multiple choice questions. And they're each worth 1 point. And then at the bottom is one short answer, which is worth 4 points. It says, describe the setting of this chapter, when and where.
Yeah, see, this was just like Miss Faulkner's,
Yeah.
but you were just supposed to post it. And it was supposed to be blank.
All right, well, hopefully I did it right. So that's what I'm going to have you guys doing here. So, John, when you have something to raise your hand, okay? So, you guys will be able to answer this question in detail. When you're done, Justina, it's really important that you hit the button submit at the bottom. That's a big one. If you guys don't hit submit, it won't come to your teacher. Okay, so you would just make sure you hit submit, and then I'll get it. And that way, everybody's handing in their work the same way, whether you're at home, virtual, or whether you're here in class. Justina, after I'm done reading today, you're going to take the quiz in class, and you're going to submit it through Google Classroom. You folks at home, when we're done reading today, you can take the quiz, and you guys can submit it right through Google Classroom. Everybody can submit it the same way. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys at home, get out your Freak the Mighty books. Get ready for Chapter 3. We're going to pass out graphic organizers. You guys can open up to your graphic organizer, which is what I'm going to do here. Okay, so you guys can see it.
Oh, do it.
Freak the Mighty, the reading guide. All right, and so there it is. So before we begin, you guys weren't with me on Friday. On Friday, we just read aloud Chapter 1 and 2. All right. Did anyone in here watch the video at all of me reading it out loud? You actually did, so you got to follow along with the conversation? No, you didn't. Did you watch the video?
On YouTube.
No.
Oh, you raised your hand and said you did. Were you here live? Oh, then why'd you raise your hand? You don't know. Well, on Friday, I read the first 2 chapters aloud. And so we talked about it online. It's all in the video if you've missed it. And this is where you guys have to make sure that you are doing the reading yourselves or that you're following along on here. Okay. Okay. So we've been talking about setting and characters, and today we're going to bring in plot, what's happening. So before we start reading, I just want to do a quick review. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Who do we meet in chapter 1? Ruth?
Max.
Max. And who else do we meet? Justina? Kevin. Which, in chapter 1, how do we know him? What's his name in chapter 1, Justina? Freak. Okay, so we meet Max and Kevin. And what do we know about Max? Some things we just know about Max. Jane?
That he is throws tantrum and
Okay, he throws tantrums, he gets mad easily. What else?
he's kind of big because he lives in a cellar.
Oh, who does he live with?
Good friend.
Okay, don't overlook the obvious. He lives with his grandparents. Alright. What else do we know about him?
He says that he didn't have a brain,
So he feels what?
like dumb, stupid.
He feels stupid. He lives with his grandparents. What else do we know about him? We know how old he is. And I don't need a number. We know how old he is, though. What year of it is for him in his life?
It was 3rd grade.
No.
No, 8.
It's the summer before 8th grade. He was remembering a time in 3rd grade. Okay, so this guy's just a little bit older than you. Where's his mom? Really, it's a big one. We need to know his mom is dead. Which is why he lives with his grandparents. Where's his father? Where's his father?
His father. We don't know where his father is.
Thank you. We don't know where his father is. His father's gone. His father's not around. And his mom is dead. And yet this big, angry kid who likes to kick people. What do we know about Freak? What do we know about Kevin?
Kevin loves robots and he has crutches.
Okay? He has crutches. That's something we know about him. Freak and Max never interacted when they were younger. They never interacted when they were younger.
He's pretty smart.
He's smart. What else do we know about him? Ruth.
He likes robots.
He likes robots. Anyone want to jump in from the virtual world? He's got crutches. He's smart. He likes robots.
He's small.
He's small. Anyone else in the virtual world? Do you guys know anything else about Kevin?
He has blonde hair.
He's got blonde hair. Okay?
And he
Alright.
lives in a duplex.
And the setting. We learned a lot about the setting in the first 2 chapters, about Max's neighborhood. Whenever we describe setting, we describe a when and a where, and we also want to describe it in detail. So we know we're in Max's neighborhood. Right. And we talked about the when. When are we? We're in Max's summer before 8th grade. So that's a when, that's a time. Describe Max's neighborhood, John. People in the virtual world. What do you know about Max's neighborhood? Yeah, shout it out, Parker.
It's a bad neighborhood and it's old and run down. Just came home from jail.
Good. This is a bad, rough, run-down neighborhood. It has people who use drugs in it. Okay? People that are just getting out of prison. Anything else?
It's like basically the desert. It's like a desert there. There's a lot of dirt.
Okay, I don't know if there's a desert, but it's definitely not a neighborhood we want to live in, right, Jacob? This is not a neighborhood that you'd want to live in. This is a rough neighborhood where you have people who use drugs, people who go to prison. Okay, the yards are dirty, grass doesn't grow. Okay, this is a rough neighborhood that we live in. All right, today, guys, we're going to start with chapter 3, and I want you guys to be able to do this. One of the things I like to do is I like to think about the chapter. And in chapter 1, my brain says, all right, what happened in chapter 1? We meet Max and Kevin. That's really what's happening. Because the stuff that's in daycare, that's all about meeting Max and Kevin. So chapter 1, I think, what happened in chapter 1? We met Max and Kevin. And then what happened in chapter 2? Think about as a whole in chapter 2. Jane?
We we learned about how he lived alone and down in the basement, and how his grandpa doesn't really trust him.
Okay, not bad. Not bad.
Like the setting.
Okay, but chapter 2, I try to think about the entire chapter. The chapter 2 is called Up from the Down Under. And if I look at the beginning of chapter 2 to the end of chapter 2, and I was trying to say, okay, what happened in chapter 2? What is happening from pages 5 to pages 8? All right, what happens in that chapter? All right, Jane, you want to give it a second guess?
He sees the people moving, and then he saw Kevin.
Yeah, but see, you don't even have to go into that much detail. Chapter 2, Kevin moves on to Max's street. So in chapter 1, we're meeting Kevin and Max. We meet Max and Kevin. We meet Max directly, and we meet Kevin through Max's eyes. In chapter 2, Justina, we go to this point where the entire chapter is just Kevin moves on to Max's street. The entire, what's happening? All right? So in chapter 3, I want us to be able to do the same thing. It's coming up with this almost like a one-sentence summary, I call it. All right? What's happening in the entire chapter? So today at the end of chapter 3, I want you guys to be able to think, all right, chapter 1, we met Max and Kevin. Chapter 2, Kevin moves on to Max's street. What would I say about chapter 3? All right, so I'm going to be starting to read chapter 3. You guys should have your pencils in hand. We'll stop periodically to talk about things that are happening. And when we're done, you guys will be able to use your reading guides and we'll be able to take the quiz. All right, you guys ready at home to read?
Yeah.
I didn't give you one? Did I give you 2, Jane?
Yep.
Sorry, Ruth. Okay. Chapter 3, Justina. Everyone should be on what page, Jane?
Page 10.
Alright, what page should we be on?
10.
Alright, page 10. There we go. Okay, so anytime you guys hear something about the setting, the characters, or a plot event, you can write it down. Alright, chapter 3, American Flyer. Okay, back to the down under, right? My room in the basement. Scuttle into your dim hole in the ground, Maxwell dear. Big goon like you, growing about an inch a day. And this midget kid, this crippled little humanoid, he actually scared you? Not the kind of scared that makes your knee bones feel like water. More the kind of scare where you go, whoa, I don't understand this. I don't get it. What's going on here? Now, it's important to note here, guys, he's referring to an event that happened at the end of chapter 2. What happened at the end of chapter 2 that scared Max so much? Jane?
Kevin called him an earthling.
But what did he say? Go back to page 9. He grabs his crutch and says,
He says, then die, earthling, die.
yeah, he uses his crutch to... So when these guys first meet, Kevin uses his crutch to pretend shoot Max and tell him to die. Not a great way for a friendship to start, huh, Justina? No, not at all. And so you have Big Max, which everybody seems to be scared of. His grandparents are kind of scared of him. Big dumb Max. Little tiny smart Kevin. Who should be afraid of who?
Kevin should be afraid of
Kevin
Max.
should be afraid of
But
Max.
in chapter 2, who was afraid of who?
Kevin should be afraid.
Max.
Max was afraid of Kevin.
Max was afraid of Kevin in the
They're
beginning.
scared of a worm.
Alright, let's keep going. So, and that's what Max is thinking about. Max is sitting there thinking, like, how could you be scared? How could you be scared of this kid? But he was. He was afraid of Kevin. Like calling me Earthling, which by itself is pretty weird, right? I already mentioned a few of the names I've been called, but not until the robot boy showed up. Nobody had ever called me Earthling, and so I'm lying on my mattress there in the great down under, and it comes to me that he's right. I am an Earthling. I mean, we're all of us Earthlings, but we don't call each other Earthling. There's no need, because it's the same thing that in this country we're all Americans, but we don't go around to people and say, "Excuse me, American, can you tell me how to get to the nearest 7-Eleven?" Does anybody know what a 7-Eleven is?
Yeah.
It's a gas station store.
Yeah, I called on Ruth because she raised her hand. Yeah, it was a little convenience store. I don't even know if 7-Elevens are around anymore.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking about that for a while. I'm lying there in the cellar dark, and pretty soon, the down under starts to get small. Like the walls are shrinking. And I go up the bulkhead stairs into the backyard and find a place where I can check it out. Alright, so, what's our setting right now? Where are we? Ruth?
Backyard.
Okay, but we're coming up and going into the backyard. So, that's a where. We're in Max's backyard. Something that you guys are going to notice, setting changes. Alright? The setting is always changing. So, it's kind of like scenes in a movie. The scenes are always changing. So, we go to the next set. And it's the same thing in books. Okay? Scenes change. Characters, we build on our characters. We know more and more and more about them. So we already know a little bit, at least, about Max's backyard and the kind of neighborhood he lives in, which, again, it helps us understand that he's not going out back to swim in his luxurious pool and, get some sun under the palm tree. Okay? We already have this picture of this rough, rundown neighborhood with the chain link fence and the dirt in the yard instead of grass growing. Okay, so we get that picture in our head, and this is what Max is like, I'm so bored down here in my basement, I'm going to go in the backyard and see what's going on. Alright, I'm on the middle of page 11. There's this one scraggly tree behind the little freak's house, right? Like a stick in the ground, with a few wimped out branches. And there he is, hardly any bigger now than he was in daycare. And he's standing there, waving his crutch up at the tree. I kind of slide over to the chain link fence, get a better angle on the scene. What's he doing whacking at that crummy tree? Trying to jump up and hit this branch with his little crutch. And he's mad, hopping mad. Only he can't really jump. He just makes this jumping kind of motion. His feet never leave the ground. Then, what he does, he throws down his crutch and he gets down on his hands and knees and crawls back to his house. If you didn't know, you would think he was like a kindergarten creeper who forgot how to walk. He's that small. And he crawls real good. I mean, better than he can walk. Before you know it, he's dragging this wagon out from under the steps. Rusty red thing. One of those old American flyer models. Anyhow, the little freak is tugging, page 12, it backwards, a few inches at a time, chugging along until he gets that little wagon under the tree. Next thing, he picks up his crutch and he climbs in the wagon and he stands up and he's whacking at the tree again. Alright, now, here's a great place for us to stop and pause. Plot. The events. Everybody, whether you're home or whether you're in class, to start the chapter, what is happening? Write down 1 to 2 things for plot events. I'd probably write something about Max and something about Kevin. What's Max doing and what is Kevin doing at the beginning of the chapter? Did you guys hear that? Okay, yeah, I'd probably, for plot events. What's Max doing? What's Kevin doing? Think about what these two guys are doing. Because right now, they're not friends. Max is doing something, Kevin's doing something. Okay?
What do you want us to write that in the plot or in
Yeah, Jacob, that's part of the plot. Okay? As we learn more about them, about their character and who they are, that's where we put it over here, Max and Kevin. Again, the reason I'm asking you guys to write this down is to just help us better understand the plot and the characters. Alright, so at the start of the chapter, what's happening with our plot? What'd you write down, Jonathan?
Well, Max is sitting on a wagon whacking a tree.
Max isn't, Kevin is.
Oh.
Okay, so Kevin is playing with this wagon, whacking at a tree. Good, that's a pretty good synopsis of that.
Max walks out of the cellar onto the backyard where Kevin is in his backyard trying to whack at the scrambled tree with his crutch.
Okay, well said. Again, it kind of encompasses everything that's happened on those first 2 pages. How about you, Jane?
on it?
I said Kevin's trying to get something out
Good.
then Max is spying.
It won't let me
Good,
type it
good, and that's exactly what Max is kind of doing. He's kind of spying on him. He doesn't want to be seen. Remember, his last encounter with them, Freak said, "Die, Earthling, die," and he shot him with his crutch. Justina, what did you write down?
Max is whacking a tree.
Can you take whatever that is out of your mouth?
Max is not Max. Kevin is whacking a tree and whacking.
Okay, and Max is doing what? He's
Max
just
is
watching him.
watching
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah, so we have the scene, okay? So folks at home, we have our scene painted now. What is happening with our plot? Kevin is got a wagon, he's playing with something in a tree, and Max is just there kind of spying on him and watching him. Okay, back on page 12. By now, I've figured out that there is something stuck up in the branches that he wants to get down. This small, bright colored thing looks like a piece of folded paper. Whatever it is, the paper thing. He wants it real bad, but even with the wagon, there's no way he can reach it. No way. So, I go over there to his backyard, trying to be really quiet. But I'm no good at sneaking up, not with these humongous feet. And he turns and faces me with that crutch raised up like he's ready to hit a grand slam on my head. He wants to say something, you can tell that much. But he's so mad, he's all huffed up. The noise he makes, it could be from a dog or something. And he sounds like he can hardly breathe. What I do, I keep out of range of that crutch and just reach up and pick that paper thing right out of the tree. Except it's not a paper thing. It's a plastic bird, light as a feather. I have to hold it real careful or it might break. That's how flimsy it is. I go, "You want this back or what?" The little freak is staring at me bug-eyed and he goes, "Oh, it talks." I give him the bird thing. What is it? Like a model airplane or something? All right, pause. Okay, so we went from Max is in his backyard spying on Kevin. Kevin's in his backyard playing with something that's stuck up in a tree. Something just happened. Write it down. What happened? Write down what happened. Write down what happened.
On the plot, and crossing
This is such a simple little scene, but it's ultimately going to be very important.
Michelle, please mute.
All right, so what did you write down? What is the event, Jane?
I wrote Max gets something out of the tree for him.
For Kevin, yes. John, did you write something different?
Pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same, and that's what you should have written down. Ruth, what'd you write?
Max helps Kevin get the plastic bird.
Good. Max helps Kevin get the plastic bird. I want you guys to understand something here. Max, in this moment, has a choice. I want you to put yourself in Max's shoes. You're watching this kid who just the day before says to you, "Die, Earthling, die," and points a crutch at you like he's going to shoot you with his crutch. And now you're watching him struggle. What are his options in this moment? When Max is just watching Kevin, what are some of the things that he could choose to do?
Just keep watching that.
Kevin is really happy to get the bird back.
No, before, when he's just watching him, Ruth. When he's just sitting there. When he's just watching him. He has a choice to make. And so somebody said online, just sit there and keep watching him, right?
Or he can help.
That was me, Jacob.
So one choice is just sit there and keep watching him. Another choice is to help him. Jane, what's another choice?
Another choice is to like make fun of him because he told him to die yesterday.
He could have made fun of him. He could have laughed at him. You know, he could have gone to tease him because the day before, Kevin wasn't so nice to Max. Max has a choice in this moment. I can go help him, I could ignore him, or I could tease him. And think about, what does Max do, Justina? Max goes and helps him. So, what does that tell us again about Max?
He's helpful.
Okay, he's helpful. What were we going to say, Ruth?
He has some decisions.
Okay?
Kind.
Kind. So you mean this kid who kicks people, who hates hugs, who people call all these names, we see something in his actions that tells us that he's really maybe not that bad. He's actually kind and helpful, you had just mentioned. This is going to be an important scene when it comes to our plot. So everybody put a star next to this little event. Max helps Kevin. Max helps Kevin. We're going to learn later on, this is called the inciting incident. This is the event where our character makes a choice that's going to change his life or change our story. All right? All right, let's keep reading. I'm on page, top of 13. I give him the bird thing. What is it? Like a model airplane or something? You can tell he's real happy to have the bird thing back. And his face isn't quite so fierce. Although, wait, I almost just forgot. So we just learned something about Max. Write it down. Okay, this is about Max. Max is kind. Max is actually helpful. Max is kind. Max is helpful. Is Max a big bully who kicks people?
No.
No.
Yes, but
Yes, he is. But he's also kind. He's also thoughtful and helpful. Okay? He's still Max, the kid that kicks people still. But he's this as well. He's not just little kicker.
He's both.
Okay. You can tell he's real happy to have the bird thing back, and his face isn't quite so fierce. He sits down in the wagon and he goes, "This is an ornithopter. An ornithopter is defined as an experimental device propelled by flapping wings." Or you could say that an ornithopter is just a big word for mechanical bird. That's how he talked, like right out of the dictionary. So smart you can hardly believe it. While he's talking, he's winding up the bird thing. There's this elastic band inside, and he goes, "Observe and be amazed, Earthling." And then he lets it go. You follow along? Yeah, follow along. Then he lets it go. And you know what? I am amazed, because it does fly just like a little bird, flitting up and down and around, higher than I can reach. I chase after the thing until it boinks against the scrawny tree trunk, and I bring it back to him, and he winds it up again and makes it fly. We keep doing that, it must be for almost an hour, until finally the elastic breaks. I figure, that's it, end of ornithopter. But he says something like, "All mechanical objects require periodic maintenance. We'll schedule installation of a new propulsion unit as soon as the fair Guinevere gets a replacement." Alright, how does Freak talk? How does he talk? Justina?
Out of the dictionary. Like a genius with just something like that. Out of a dictionary.
You want help? Yeah, so he speaks right out of the dictionary. So what does that tell us about him?
He's verbally intelligent.
He's very smart. He knows so many big words. Write this down again about Kevin. We're starting to really get to this understanding. Kevin is not just smart. He's really smart. He knows these words. That whole phrase right here. All mechanical objects require maintenance. We'll schedule installation of a new propulsion unit as soon as the fair Guinevere gets a replacement. Do you know what that all is? What's he need? What does he need there? A rubber band. A propulsion. He needs a new rubber band. The elastic rubber band. You spin it. The rubber band broke in his toy. Instead of saying, "Oh nuts, the rubber band broke in my toy," Freak says, "All mechanical objects require periodic maintenance. We'll schedule installation of a new propulsion unit as soon as the fair Guinevere gets a replacement." His mom needs to go get a new rubber band. All right? But see, look at how fancy he talks. So again, we're starting to really see how smart Freak really is. All right, so again, in the plot, we started out with Max is in the backyard spying on Kevin. Kevin is whacking at a tree. Max helps Kevin. What do they do next? John?
have to go. Well, actually, playing with the bird.
They play with the bird. Write it down. Max and Kevin simply play with this mechanical bird. It's called an ornithopter, but Okay? Max is in the backyard spying on Kevin. That's where our chapter starts. And Kevin is whacking at a tree with his crutch. Max helps Kevin, and then Max and Kevin play with this mechanical bird.
And go up and snap. And there go get a new one.
Okay, now I'm at the bottom of page 13. We're almost done with the chapter. Even though I'm not sure what he means, I go, that's cool. You live around here, Earthling? Page 14. Page 14, last page. Over there, I point out the house in the Down Under. Now, when Max says Down Under, remember, where does Max live in his grandparents' house?
Basement.
The basement. Now, I want you to understand this too. I might have to draw a little picture. I wonder if this will let me draw right on it. It will. Okay. You guys might have this at your house, okay? My house, the way I get to my basement, I need to be in my house, and I open up the door and I go down into the basement. In Max's house, okay, there's the ground. Here's Max's house. We'll make a door. We'll make some windows. Okay. Nice roof. Alright. And then to get into Max's basement, he's talked about these things called the bulkhead doors. Okay. Now in my house, if I want to get into if I want to get into my basement, let's try that again. Okay, I need to go in the front door. Max doesn't need to do that because his basement has storm doors or bulkhead doors, and those are those doors that come out of the side of the house kind of like this.
Yeah.
And then you can open them up and you would walk right down the stairs into the basement. So Max can come and go as he wishes. He doesn't need to go actually into his house. He lives with his Grim and Graham, and he does go upstairs, he eats dinner with them, does all the bathroom with theirs, but he's able to go right down. It's almost like he has his own little apartment down there. Okay? And it sounds like Graham can also get to the basement from inside the house, but Max talks about going up and down the bulkhead doors a lot. So I want you to understand that it's like Max, again, he's not going through the house with his grandparents, he's just coming in and out of these bulkhead doors. So, at the end of this chapter, this is where Max is taking Kevin. He says this, over there, I point out the house, in the Down Under. He goes, what? And I figure it's easier to show him than explain all about Graham and Grim and the room in the cellar. So I pick up the handle to the American Flyer wagon and I tow him over. It's real easy. He doesn't weigh much. And I'm pretty sure I remember looking back and seeing him sitting up in the wagon, happy as can be, like he's really enjoying the ride and not embarrassed to have me pulling him around. But like Freak says later in the book, you can remember anything, whether it happened or not. All I'm really sure of is he never hit me with the crutch. So at the very end, the last event, where is Max taking Kevin? You guys write it down. Yeah, you write it down.
Hey, Mr. Crumble.
Yes?
It won't let me write on the thing.
You might have to click, and Noah, if it doesn't let you write, do this. Okay, so let's say I need to write something over here. I can
I had to print mine.
click a text box, and I can add a new text box, and then you can manipulate this text box to go anywhere you want. Okay? But you also might have to just double click in the box. See how I had to click in that box twice, and now it will let me write?
Oh,
Okay, so play around with it a little bit.
there we go.
Okay?
You type really fast.
Well, I wasn't actually typing a word there. Alright, so now we're at the end of chapter 3. Chapter 1, we meet Max and Kevin. Chapter 2, Kevin moves on to Max's street. What can we do for chapter 3? What is chapter 3 really all about? What happens?
Max and Kevin become friends.
Okay, that's a good way to say it. What would you say, Ruth?
He befriends Max.
Okay, Kevin.
Befriends Kevin.
Okay. John? Justina?
The friends.
Alright, so chapter 3. I would only add one thing to what Jane wrote. I would simply say, Max helps Kevin, and they start being friends. They start a friendship. Boom. Okay. So now I'm going to save this. I'm going to keep this. You guys don't have to have this for now. We're going to do this with each chapter. We're just going to keep updating so we can kind of track our story. So guys, now that your reading guide is done, it's your job to do the quiz. All right? And normally, well, again, you guys, class is short. This is a very weird day. But, so we did the reading guide. Remember, I'm not going to grade the reading guide. The reading guide is for you guys. The reading guide is for you, Justina. The more info you put on your reading guide, the better prepared you will be for the quizzes. So each person, and I want you guys to do it in here because I'm curious to really make sure the technology is working. All right, and then after everyone's done with the quiz, I'll let you guys know about the other classwork and assignments you need. So we're gonna have about an hour, which is perfect. So everybody right now at home, and you guys can stay on if you want. I'll keep the stream running. And then if you guys have technical difficulties from home, you might be able to pop on and see if we can't solve them, okay? So everybody right now here, go to Google Classroom, take the Chapter 3 quiz. Got it? All right, go. And everybody in here, go to Google Classroom, and I want you guys to take the Chapter 3